to jump into that one. They have played 2 draws so far, these two, and it was close to a win for Jan-Christoph Duda in game 2. It ended with a draw. That means they are still tied, and here Anish Giri has the white pieces in game 3. What does this look like?
So it's early days, but white has adopted the reti setup. That means developing the knight, pushing a pawn, this kind of really nice compact structure around the white king. And black, meanwhile, is going for a double fianchetto. So he's pushed 2 pawns on the flanks, and he's going to put his bishops on long diagonals. Slightly going against the rules, conventional rules. Normally we say knights before bishops, but Duda trying to get away with things here. Do you think his lighting, his camera, does it match his mood right now? Just darkness after that last game.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, so he's gone all to the dark side.
It must be hard after a blunder like in that game, losing sort of his chance to win that game with just 15 minutes to get ready for the next one.
Yeah, I could see Anish really putting the pressure on this game. I mean, it's a good situation. He's got the white pieces. He's got kind of, already I'd say a more niche position, slow manoeuvring, chances for an advantage. And Duda has played, as David said, a very unconventional setup. I mean, the main problem with Duda's, positionally is that his light square bishop is just pointing at its own pawn. So it's like, you're trapping yourself behind a wall, basically, which you can't get out of. And the other bishop, which Anish has, is very strong in these positions. So I certainly think white has chances to gain advantage out the opening here. Yeah,
white's significantly ahead in development as well. White's already castled the king away to safety, so Anish is able to open up the position very quickly. I quite like this move. Black has 2 possible replies. I was going to say either you can just kind of defend this pawn, maybe with a pawn yourself, or you can capture just to open up your bishop, but this bishop is undefended. Maybe there would have been some consequences. Instead, Duda brings his knight out, and after a capture, he just castles his king. And this is interesting. He will win this pawn back on the next move. There's no way to really defend it if you throw your pawn forward in the centre. This guy just gets captured. So in the position right now, I was going to say something along these lines for Anish Giri. Just move your rook across, get ready to build this nice pawn centre. Looks really good.
It looks really weird,
it looks
doesn't it?
Wonderful for white.
Yeah, definitely.
Is this Duda on tilt?
I think so. I mean, we've seen Duda go on tilt before. I remember when Magnus surprised him with a very strange opening move, bishop 1f3. He just drew that game, and then the next game he just cracked and lost.
He was very lucky to draw that game. He was losing.
Yeah, and I mean, this is a bit like the Grunfeld, one of your favourite openings, David, but a really bad version of it because you don't have the Grunfeld pressure and you're getting kicked around by White's pieces. So White's going to have a fantastic centre. Anish is not going to get a better chance than this to take a lead, I think. I mean,
beautiful for White. This is everything you want from an opening, right, Simon?
Yeah, definitely. 100%.
This bishop, you mentioned getting kicked around. It's moved 3 times now already in the opening. That's where he's lost the tempo, tempi, plural of tempo. And right now, these 2 pawns looking fantastic. If you challenge them, they can just simply step forward.
And black probably won't even be able to challenge them in the future either as well, because, I mean, that's not going to be easy to orchestrate. And I was always taught by my very first coach, who was from Serbia, and he was a great coach, and he gave very generalistic rules, and he said, if you get this, it was Milos Pavlovic. I was working with him for about 2 years, and I got my first coach when I was about 27.
Oh, right, I thought you were going to say 7.
No, 27, right, yeah. Okay. And he was like, if you get something like this, you're positionally 1.
Yeah.
And he said, because you're just going to have the capability to march forward with your pawns and your pieces. And if black can't do anything about it, they're lost.
Yeah, it's probably as simple as that, really. At this,
very simplistic, but...
It's totally simplistic, but it's very, it gives you a lot of hope and gives you lots of motivation.
Yeah, and at other levels, other than this elite level, I mean, just don't give up, though, as black. Just develop your pieces, try and maybe just hold some squares, keep your pieces nice and compact. But unfortunately for Duda, someone like Giri will be able to find the best squares for White's pieces. He will be able to step forward at the right moment. And it's just one-sided traffic at the moment. It's just all about these pawns.
This is a slight weakness in Duda's game, isn't it? I mean, I think I actually tipped him in the candidates to do really well, to actually be one of the chances to qualify. But in the first game, he kind of threw away a nicely won position against Ali Reza. And then after that, his play was not impressive. And
did he tilt a little bit?
I think so. I think he's again, like we talked about emotional players. I think he's a very emotional player. When things are going well, he can just wipe everyone off the board, win. But when something goes a little bit wrong, it affects him more than, like, let's say Magnus Carlsen is the best at bouncing back. But it's something he could certainly try to work on a bit. And it does look like it's getting darker and darker in the room. I know it's probably getting darker outside, but he does look like an evil villain now, doesn't he? He really does.
Oh, yeah, with his hands like this as well. Yeah. In
you
a
just
dark
need
chair.
A cat to jump up on his lap, and he strokes it. A nice white cat there.
Is that Dr. No?
It's, Blofeld is the villain out of James Bond.
Okay.
With his white cat.
So imagine walking into a room and you just see that.
You'd be like, come and enter, David, take a seat.
Just the silhouette.
I will tell you your fortune.
And he's not too happy, young Christoph Duda. This is game 3 between Anish and Duda. Now, look at that. Young Samuel Sevian has won the second game against Wei. He's taken the lead now in that match. Report against Zhong, that is game 2 still going on, and the bar is slightly over to the young American side. We are asking you guys today which match you want us to keep the closest eye on, and I think we have the live poll right here, okay? So it's still Levon Aronian against Arjun Erigaisi. Your favorite match to follow? Duda against Giri in second place. You can cast your vote either on the Champions Chess Tour page on Instagram or on Twitter. And also, if you retweet the poll on Twitter, you are in contention to win 1 year subscription to Chess24 Premium. So go ahead, cast your vote, and help us decide which games to follow. This is game 3 between Anish and Duda. They are tied before this game, but it's looking good now for Anish.
It's looking very good for Anish. He chooses this square for the bishop. Slightly surprising to me, because black can just do something that you've alluded to, Simon, in the past. Just kick back this bishop. Black can push a pawn on the side of the board. I don't think this bishop wants to trade itself off for the black knight. Maybe Anish wants to provoke a pawn push around the black king. It might weaken the black king side later on. But, the problems remain for black. OK, we see this pawn push happen. He does step back, so maybe that black pawn will... Duda will have to lose some time protecting it later. But, yeah, problems remain. White's pawn centre, hard to touch. And, OK, he does just try to prevent the white pawns from stepping forward. Very logical, this last move, at least from Duda.
Levon Aronian and Erigaisi, your favourite match to follow. Game 3 will start quite soon. Erigaisi is still in the lead, and if he wins game 3, then he will win that match. He will be ready for the semi-finals. And since this is your favorite match to follow, we will, of course, follow game 3 when this one finishes. Maybe with a win for Anish.
So I guess we all like White's position, right? What would be the next plan? What should we be looking for here?
I mean, put the rook in the middle.
Yeah.
I mean, just get the absolutely ideal setup if you can. So, yeah, push the queen, connect the rooks. And this is kind of like, it's a great example to show beginners maybe this game, because you take the centre, you get all your pieces on the best squares, and then you can think about what to do. You don't need to rush at doing something, but you make as many useful moves as you can right first.
Beautiful.
It really is. I mean, you can push a pawn at some point. Maybe you can do something on the king's side, and he's going for this. Just put the rook in the middle, and everything is ideal, really. And then it's quite a lazy way to play as well, because you don't really have to calculate much. You just do this.
Move first, think later.
Yeah, and it's. I mean, at some point you have to do something, obviously, but I mean. You can think about that later.
Yeah.
Maybe even move as many pawns as you can. The H pawn, the A pawn, the B pawn. Just take as much space as possible.
Yeah. And he's going for your plan, Simon. Very natural play. Yeah. And I love this position for White so much. I'm completely crushing on it.
I mean, look at the white half of the board. Literally the first 4 ranks, we control every single square. Okay, maybe not these two, but they're not so relevant. And yeah, it's just complete control. Black's just huddled. Huddled in a box.
But OK, so we've been waxing lyrical, as we say in the UK, about White's position. What about Black? I mean, is there any chance for him to do some repair work? I don't know, step the queen forward, also connect rooks, and then try for something? I mean, try being the operative word.
I mean, if I was Black, I'd be looking at, he's gone for it, trying to place the C pawn forwards, but it just always seems like it's a bad move. And the Black Knight on the side of the board is horrible, right? I mean, it's just sort of hanging there. And it's weird. This kind of position you could probably show to a lot of players, and they'd be like, "Well, why is White doing so well? I can't see a plan for White." And it is kind of like you don't actually in chess always have to do something. You know, you can win games by just doing nothing sometimes, taking space, improving. Something will turn up. I mean, and he's doing that right here, just getting
Tactics
more space.
always work in your favour, right? If your piece is centralised like this, if you control the centre with pawns, after this rook move, I mean, what's to stop Anish just pushing this pawn forward? I mean, it looks like you're almost trapping this knight. I guess you don't have to be so hasty. You can kind of wait. You can maybe get the white queen out of the line of this black rook. Maybe that would be the kind of pragmatic approach, just shuffle the queen across somewhere, eyeing up this knight, which, yeah, you mentioned, Simon, it's just the worst piece on the board by a mile right now. OK, he does push this pawn. So he wants to definitely kick back this knight. Oh, the evaluation bar goes down, though, so maybe this means that black can break out now with a pawn push.
OK.
It looked to me like this is just terrible for black anyway. For example, at the... Oh, I think I realised why. I was going to say after pawn takes pawn, now we could push forward in the centre with white, creating a pass pawn, gaining space, leaving this knight stranded. But suddenly, in this position, maybe black can take with a knight. Suddenly, the knight is off the edge of the board. Utilising the fact that there's a pin on this file, so pawn takes knight would be met by rook takes queen. Don't want to lose our queen. Yeah, it's just maybe a bit of haste from Giri. I mean, it was the first move that came to my mind as well, pushing this pawn. But now Duda, he has to play this, I think.
It's a bit sloppy from Giri because well, OK, I'm being a bit critical because it's not an easy move to see, but he doesn't normally give chances like that away. No. He's normally very good at stopping counterplay when he's commanding a position. So, yeah. I
mean, let's go back to the players because has Duda realised it? Is he still unhappy with his position? Can we even... OK, it's not as dark as it was earlier. He's leaning forward. Giri in full focus mode, meanwhile.
Yeah. That's what you call mood lighting. So whenever his mood improves, there's a little bit of light in the background. So.
Yeah, actually, it has been matching. His mood was clearly dark at the beginning. His opening was terrible. Suddenly, it's OK again, maybe.
It's getting a bit better.
It's interesting.
A little glimmer of hope.
Yeah. Maybe we should have that for all the players in the tour.
Can we be in charge of their lighting?
Yeah.
We could just be like, right, that would be really fun. And the electric shock machine that you got Magnus was using on you when they play a bad move.
After this last move by Giri, I think there would have been a few shocks there. Because,
and you can see
now the key move.
Yeah.
Knight takes pawn on the board.
He's played it. He's found,
And now Giri has to work hard all over again.
Does it still look better for Anish, or are they back to basics?
Yeah, I would take white, just because white still has this really nice strong pawn centre, but black has solved some issues. Black's knight is off the edge of the board. Even if it retreats now, black's pawn structure is much improved. And also black has a 2... OK, he even gives up material.
Wow. Did not expect that move to be played. Does this... how does this work?
Oh, maybe he's going to grab a pawn on the edge of the board at the very end.
Wow.
So, first of all, we see a transition where at the very end, white will have 2 minor pieces, a bishop and a knight, for black's rook. Traditionally, a bishop and a knight are much stronger than a rook, but black has now won a second pawn. So black has 2 pawns on this queen side, pass pawns unrivaled that are going to march down the board later. Suddenly, the nature of the position's completely changed.
Ooh. Yeah.
Still in white's favour, maybe, but he has to be accurate.
It's, maybe. I have to show you guys something. I know it's maybe not the right time now, but I have to show you a tweet from Shivam Yadav, who said, what's the worst feeling in the world? Just ask just asked Duda how he's feeling right now while his opponent must be celebrating in ecstasy. And
All right.
ta-da!
Keeping the
They
suspense.
promised me it was ready, and it's not.
All
but
right.
when it's ready, when I will show it to you guys.
Okay.
It's very, very cool.
We'll look at that later. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Interesting. Duda. In a strange mood today, according to his lights, at least. It's dark, it's light, according to his mood. And I have to say, the youngsters, they're doing good today. Sam Sevian winning game 2, and Jeffrey Chong winning game 2. They're in their lead. They are in the lead in their matches, heading into game 3s. And game 3 has just started between Arjun Ergaisi and Levon Aronian. If that is a win for Ergaisi, he will be ready for the semi-finals. We will jump into that game when this one finishes. The bar, it's definitely liking it for Anish, but you don't 100% agree with the bar being that optimistic?
Well, I do, as long as White is really energetic with his play. I would completely disagree, for example, if the queens come off the board, if White doesn't manage to whip up an attack against the Black King. In this type of situation, when you have the minor pieces, so for example here, White's bishop and knight, rather than the Black Rook, you need to go on an attack. You can't just slow the game down, trade off the queens. You can't just kind of meander. You can't just kind of float your way through this game. You have to be really accurate, really direct. That's why Giri, I think he's refocusing himself now. He's just kind of finding that mentality, going all out. The Black King doesn't have too many defenders around it. And the reason a bishop and a knight are better than a rook is simply because there are 2 of them. And Black will only have 1 defender, a rook. If White can use a bishop and a knight together to attack a weakness, then it should be very strong. So what I would be looking for here, for example, from Giri, I mean, the first move that comes to mind would actually be Simon's favourite.
Definitely, without a shadow of a doubt. Yeah.
Yep.
Pushing this pawn forward.
Soften it up.
Yeah, it's got to be done.
Softening up the king. Another move, if we were to play with pieces rather than pawns, would be to jump in with the white knight. For example, this is actually the weakest spot in Black's camp right now. Okay, he pushes the pawn, but watch out for this knight jump later, looking for weaknesses. And yeah, long term, Black is doing okay because Black has these 2 great pawns, but it's about whether Black can survive till the end game to be able to use these pawns.
And at least it's like a free result, maybe game now.
Yeah,
like
definitely.
previously, it looked like White just couldn't lose in any situation. But now, if the queens come off, White can lose this position. Sometimes, you know, Black's might be better, right?
Black's probably better if the queen's disappeared.
So there is that danger element now that Anish has in the position.
Problem for Duda is this queen's so far offside, it takes at least 1 move to get her back to anywhere kind of decent. And also the king on this diagonal, really uncomfortable. If you step him back because of this kind of battering ram about to approach, then what is Giri's idea next? That's the big question. I would be slightly tempted to push his pawn again and try to sacrifice something on the square just to break through towards the Black King. But, OK, we don't find out the answer to that one. If we go back, we see instead Duda counterattack. The top players love to do this. Counterattacking, just keeping White aware that his pieces are loose. OK, where to put this rook?
As safe as possible, I guess.
Yeah.
Plonk it up one. Are you
Dude.
worried about the back rank? Or?
Yeah,
Nice
this
and
is
defended.
nice and defended. I think the king is pretty safe. It can find a nice shelter on h2 and doesn't need to worry about any checkmating ideas that Black might have.
Whenever you have a bishop on this square, you can nearly never get checkmated. Yeah, it's rock solid for White.
Okay, well, that's what Anish likes to hear, being rock solid. This is game 3, they are tied. So if Anish wins this game, it's going to look good for him heading into game 4. Duda, a little bit on tilt. Is that what we're seeing from him in this game?
Yeah, it feels like he got a small chance to get a semi-decent position, and instead he didn't spend much time on the clock. He completely transformed the position into one where, objectively, he might well be in trouble. So it's hard to put a finger on what Duda's kind of what's going through his mind right now. Feels like he's just playing moves without too much enthusiasm behind them.
Yeah, and on the subject of things going through players' minds, now we have the tweet ready, and it's from Shivav Yadav, and he says, "What's the worst feeling in the world? Just ask Duda how he's feeling right now." And here it is. I'm sorry. I loved it so much. I was like, get it on.
Stuff of nightmares, that is. I could just imagine just seeing that for, you know.
But this is probably running through Duda's mind right now. You know, he's thinking, oh my goodness me. My opponent is like celebrating when they should not be happy. They should be down in the dumps. It should be me who's on the verge of perhaps taking it through to the quarterfinals. Instead, he's having to fight the battle all over again in a worse position.
Like, during a match like this, will you hate is a strong word? Will you kind of hate your opponent and be angry with them, even if you are maybe friends or on good terms in between and, you know, any other day? But on the day with the matches, can you really hate your opponents?
You have to, right?
It can happen. Yeah, it can happen in certain situations. It's never temporary. Sorry, it's never temporary. It's never permanent. It's what I wanted to say. But you know, you will have that moment also. You know, if you see a reaction like Anish did. Yeah, it would just be pure loathing. Yeah. and I'm sorry, you just don't get over that. But hang on a second. I thought that this move wasn't necessarily possible because there was going to be a discovered check on the board. But, I don't think it works, actually.
Yeah, really clever, sneaky move there from Duda. It looks like this square is a bit loose, partly because there's indirect pressure from this bishop. For example, after a queen exchange, Jovanka was mentioning a knight jump, jumping out the way with a check, hitting this rook. But the problem is, after the knight is captured, yes, white is a piece up, but that's only temporary. At the very end of the variation, you have to see that the white bishop is attacked. And here, black is actually up on material and doing well. So, yeah, unfortunately for Giri, there's no direct way after this queen retreat to punish it. There's no jumps out the way with the white knight, so instead he drops back his queen. He wants to keep queens on the board, as we mentioned, in order to attack the black king later. And now this is the threat, for sure. The knight jumping out the way. For example, if black pushes a pawn, that would be careless because of a knight check, and next move, the queen would be captured. So, yeah, where to put the queen? That is the question for Duda in the current position. If this is the threat, if you offer a queen trade again, I think that just gets rejected, right? The white rook will block, and no more queen trades. So, OK, the queen goes back the whole way.
Your favourite square.
Yeah, my favourite square, but maybe not for a queen.
No, not for the queen. Bishop. Bishop needs to go there.
Maybe the black queen wants to slide into the corner to put some pressure on. Wow. Joke. But, yeah, the big question is, how does white increase the pressure now?
Yeah,
how does white activate and go for the king?
I mean, the first thought is to push your h-pawn, but if that doesn't work, maybe you reroute again, right? I mean, is there anything in the air here? Like, I'd like, you know, you always want to calculate capturing that pawn, right? I mean, I think if bishop moves, you might, OK, you know, Anish has gone very safe. This also makes a lot of sense, right?
Yeah.
But
now there's no back rank checks. The white king very safe, but
I thought maybe he can move his light square bishop now to point against the king, because then that h-pawn moving at some point would be, if you've got time to build the position up, get your pieces to the most aggressive squares you can. We tried doing that with the queen, but the bishop's not doing much on the square it's at actually anymore. So, and maybe you can start hitting the queen side as well in some rare situations.
Yeah, so black started pushing pawns. What else to do for Duda? These guys are going to start running.
Yeah.
And it might be your manoeuvre now, Simon. Bishop dropping back. Another way to do it, maybe advancing the knight. Yeah. It looks like you might get hit by some pawns. So you have to calculate this one really well, but you could try and activate the bishop this way.
I wanted to do it via pushing the g-pawn forward.
Okay.
Is that any surprise? And then returning to the idea of pushing Harry, the h-pawn, up to the 5th row. And then once you've got the opening, then everything can come forward.
Looks nice as well, yeah. So got a square for the bishop.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Many tempting moves. Shall we check with Stockfish just to see how many of our guesses were correct? On what, I think we suggested 3 moves there, dropping back the bishop. That is the 3rd best move. OK, we did well. Oh, we didn't get the other 2 moves, though. So the computer thinks that actually white should take a timeout to stop black's counterplay to maybe target this weak pawn. But that feels like the wrong side of the board, so I'm not sure how human that is. I think Giri's already going to be looking towards the king. I wish we could see where his eyes are looking on the screen, because I have a definite feeling he's looking on this side of the board. But the other move, the second top move there by Stockfish, that's logical as well, using the white queen, going back on this diagonal to try and target the king. And yeah, we'll have to see what Giri chooses. Plenty of choice here. we see 3 moves in front of us. We also suggested, for example, dropping the bishop back, pushing this pawn, very logical. Moving the knight in, also logical. Lots of tempting kind of choices here for Giri, but that can be a double-edged sword, especially with only 5 minutes on the clock. Maybe he has 7 or 8 moves here which maintain an advantage, but how do you pick between them?
Those pawns are moving as well. The black pawns, I mean, this is what we're saying when we mentioned it's a free result game. I mean, those pawns, you know, you give black 4-5 tempo and they become very scary. So you need to, you can't just keep moving your king backwards and forwards. Okay, he's gone gone for the rerouter.
You should be happy, Simon. I'm glad we didn't bet on it.
Am I happy that Anish is thinking like me? Yes, I am. Yeah, of course I am. Yeah, that's it. Only joking.
It's like bingo, isn't it? Your numbers have been matched.
You're basically the ginger Giri. That's a compliment, Simon.
Thank you.
Well, this is game 3 between these two. They are tied. Game 3 has started between Arjun Ergaisi and Levon Aronian. If that is a win for the young Indian, then he is ready for the semi-final. And the situation is the same for Sam Sevian. He is in the lead, and they're now in game 3, him and Wei Yi. If Sam Sevian wins that game, he will be ready for the semi-finals. And the situation is also the same for Jeffrey Chong, the other young American. Game 3 will soon start between himself and Richard Rapport. He is in the lead, Jeffrey Chong. And with a win in game 3, he will be ready for the semi-finals. So 3 of the matches can actually be decided in game 3. But the one we're following, Anish Giri and Jan-Christoph Duda, they will definitely play 4 games. And if they still are tied, then we will have tie breaks with Blitz and Armageddon. But you guys have predicted that Anish probably wants to avoid that. He has lost 2 tie breaks to Jan-Christoph Duda on the tour.
Yeah, and this feels like the key game. He needs to use the momentum from that kind of miracle save, that bounce back he had in the previous game. And yeah, if now he doesn't strike, if he doesn't win a game that he's had an advantage since move, 4 or 5, if he doesn't strike in this one, suddenly momentum's back on Duda's side. Duda will have white in the last game and the tie breaks, as we mentioned. Yeah. He's a big, big favourite there.
So what can Anish do to win this game? The bar is only now saying 0.4 advantage for Anish.
Well, he's got to attack now, isn't he? I mean, he's got to do something which he does very well when he does it, but it tends not to do it enough, which is just go all in for the opponent's king. I mean, all his pieces are now kind of lined up against black's king. And I don't see any reason at all why he shouldn't push the H-pawn, trying to open it up more after black's move. I didn't even realise it's black's move, of course, but, like, you know, here he comes.
Yeah, here he comes.
Good stuff. This is going to get very exciting now.
Definitely. And take a look at black's rook. It's actually moved itself to the 3rd row, but hang on a second. I mean, there's no defensive purpose behind that whatsoever. Does this mean that Anish can just simply continue with his plan of softening up the king?
The black king looks pretty soft right now. I mean, the pawns around it barely protected. Black's queen is protecting a couple of pawns, but even that's not a great piece. White's queen could move out the way. White's knight could start jumping forward. A couple of decent squares, tempting squares.
It's actually Duda's idea to sacrifice his rook for that bishop.
Wow. Maybe, because in the current position, for example, if white's knight jumps to the edge of the board, I don't really want to go to this side, to be honest. I want to go to the centre, but maybe the black bishop can eliminate here. But, OK, he has done this. But, Jovanka, you think maybe at some point the rook takes bishop will come in into the equation?
Yeah.
And if white recaptures, then to just say, I don't care, I'm a knight down, but I'm just going to push these guys.
Bank on those 2 passes on the left.
Maybe you can push the pawn first. Is there actually a threat here?
Yeah, in the current position.
I mean,
that's a good question, because if the black pawn pushes, maybe not this one.
Maybe the A pawn.
The A pawn, yeah.
But maybe you've got knight takes pawn. Oh no, then you take the bishop. Yeah. Very good.
And suddenly black gets out, not material down, and still with these pawns.
It's a bit unclearish. I mean, it's like it should be good for white, I'm sure, but you could see you could get nervous here and go wrong. Where those pawns just maybe it's easier for black to play. That's that's the issue.
I like this move, just cold-blooded, saying to Giri, OK, it looks like you're threatening this one, but no, I'll just take back with the queen. Yeah. And here, your queen drops as well. Yeah, that's really cold-blooded. Just utilising the fact that this pin is...
Yeah, and Anish has to find a move after that, because black's just going to keep pushing those pawns. I mean, yeah, I guess you can move the queen, but then you can do Jovanka's plan at least an extra tempo up, right? So
could eliminate this. You could maybe... I mean, it looks so risky, but you could maybe eliminate the white knight. Okay, the position is on the board. And, okay, Giri goes forward with the white queen, but now, is there a threat? Queen takes pawn, is that the threat? Knight takes pawn, maybe?
But
A lot of pressure on this square.
knight takes pawn.
must be knight takes pawn, mustn't it? Then
Do we have the same trick in the air?
For example, let's say black pushes the pawn forward again, just cold-blooded, ignoring white's threats. Knight takes pawn. Is this just met by rook takes bishop? Trying to eliminate this knight next. Does white's knight have anywhere good to jump? Not 100% clear. Maybe the knight just jumps back, but then we have a question of are black's pawns strong enough? Maybe white can stop the pawns in this manner. Maybe this is good enough.
This is getting really murky, isn't it, actually? I mean, the more I'm looking at this, the more I'm thinking, you know, Duda's done a great job of creating counterplay, at least. And
at least his king, for now, is surviving.
All three results again. I mean, it really is all three results now.
Look at these pawns.
Yeah.
One slow move from Giri, one false step, and those pawns will win the game. Really unclear. Really messy.
It's a really cool matchup, Anish Giri against Jan-Christoph Duda. Top players. They have very different strengths as well, it seems.
Very different strengths. And yeah, Giri loves to control positions. He loves to use his great strategic understanding, his great opening preparation. Duda, he's okay with openings now, but he's never been that's never been his stronghold. The openings, he just wants a mess. He just wants the initiative. He just wants tricks.
And talking about tricks, he's doing a great job at establishing them.
Yes.
And I think that Anish probably has to take a time out already if he wants to continue with his attack.
Well, I mean, we were talking about Duda's lighting, which has now got a little bit better.
Yeah, it's
also,
very strange.
Also, Anish's chair. When Anish's position gets worse, his chair goes down. And he starts getting lower and lower. So he's like nearly under the... Oh, there he is. He's feeling confident again. He's played a move.
Okay.
Sort of in with the queen.
Suddenly he's looking at something else.
Yeah.
What's happening? Was he checking the webcam of Duda? The evaluation bar's gone down. So does Giri on the camera.
It's going the wrong way, isn't he? That's the thing. As soon as you start moving away from the target zone, which is clearly your opponent's king, you know it's understandable, that move, get behind the pawns and try to keep control. But it's just, I really don't know what's happening anymore in this game.
What's wrong? What happens, for example, if black's rook just slides across two squares and attacks the white queen? Where's the white queen actually going to hide? Not too many safe squares for her.
No.
I mean, the black rook can just continue attacking the white queen, try to kick the white queen back out of black's camp.
But maybe the position has suddenly become incredibly wild, that could be like a logical result.
Yep, he's played it.
And
very natural.
yeah, I think, I'll be honest here, I might chicken out.
If you were
Just
white.
if I were white, and I would
Take the
just
draw.
move with my queen, keep it on the 7th, and let that rook chase me full prepared.
Even with the match situation in mind, because a draw here and Duda becomes a huge favourite in the remaining game today and in the tie-breaks. And look at this, the repetition of moves is beginning. White's queen is hit by a black rook, it moves, it gets hit again.
Yeah, that's why I said chicken. Chicken out.
You can sort of you can do it zigzag when you can't keep chasing it. I mean, I think you have to play for a win here, really, because it's also hard to change that you know you're winning, you know you're doing well, and suddenly you've got to take the draw. It's going to be really depressing playing the next game. But maybe he will go for the draw.
But
Second time we've seen this position.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe it's not crazy to do it. But
okay, he is going for it. I mean, the thing is, though, at the back of your mind, you will be thinking better to draw than to lose.
Yeah.
And if you're not quite comfortable with the position,
Yeah, but you can't play. You gotta. No, you
Anish,
can't
play on.
I mean, you
yeah,
gotta.
but we're like
losing's a part of
observers.
life.
We're like not in the midst of the battle, so I
No,
can
but
kind of.
odds-wise, anyone
Yeah.
who's studied odds, anyone who's been in the heat of tournament battle and matches, you know when your moment is. And
Okay, there you go.
Good boy,
He's
Anish.
making you
Good
guys
boy,
happy.
Anish.
There's your courage, Anish. Good.
No draw on this one, thank you.
Bar hates it.
Oh, the bar can go away, and he'll probably end up losing, but still gets a round of applause for us. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. The goddess of chess, she'll be happy that he didn't want
Yeah.
another draw with white, that he didn't kind of bail out of a really rich, complex position. And now, as you mentioned, Simon, the queen can zigzag back, so the white queen can go back to the a5 square, suddenly keeping an eye on 2 black pawns, and black's rook cannot... There we go. And black's rook cannot continue harassing her.
Why is
Why is the bar going so?
it's still in Anish's?
No, yeah, because it went suddenly on my computer. I was like,
Well, let's hope you know the Queen of Chess does actually reward Anish, because what's the move there?
what is the move?
What the hell?
What?
Best move for black. It's maybe not an obvious one, but it's maybe not too hard to find either, because this pawn is attacked twice by white's bishop and by white's knight. The best move is simply to move to push it forward. That makes some sense. Also, you clear a path for the black queen, potentially, to check the white king. Now that white's queen is so far offside, he finds it.
Oh, wow.
I feel a bit bad now. And if the bishop just retreats, what's the idea that I'm missing?
Maybe there's a queen check.
Yeah, king shuffles. I mean, it looks OK to me.
Ooh,
the bishop's
looks
come
a bit
in.
scary, some checkmating
Oh,
ideas.
the rook's coming in. Oh, dear. Oh, yeah, I missed that one.
OK, but
dear.
yeah, he did stop this from happening. I think the moral of the story here, guys, is that never put your queen on a5. Duda, the reason he didn't win the previous game, he put his queen on this exact square, and then his king was attacked on this exact square. So...
But isn't the moral of the story just take the draw whenever you can? You know, just take the draw. If there's ever an opportunity to take the draw, don't go for the win. Grab the draw. You know, take the draw. Always.
No, you can go. You can go for the win. It just has to be a bit measured. Yeah. Now it's all gone wrong.
It's all gone completely
Has it
wrong
really
for
gone
Giri.
wrong? He doesn't deserve to lose
No,
this
he
one.
doesn't. Absolutely. I mean, the gods have not been kind.
Well, he's got to keep the queens on. We've said if the queens come off it, I totally agree it's gone wrong, because those pawns...
The problem for white is one of your bishops is hanging as well. The dark squared bishop for white is attacked.
dear.
So if you save your queen, you have to give up your dark squared bishop.
Well, let's say you move the queen 2 squares forwards, because I just think the ending's going to be very easy for black. So I have to...
You have to gamble here.
The black king is still very weak. So let's try queen up 2 squares, maybe?
Yeah.
The only square it can
Has
go.
to try that.
Only
Trade the queens
square.
and you just lose.
Yeah.
Those 2 black pawns are too strong.
You've got no choice there.
Okay.
Look how Duda, suddenly his camera's all bright again. He's loving life.
Yeah, I know.
It really is mood lighting, isn't it?
Mood lighting, yeah. Wow.
Must be some high-tech kind of gadget there that he has in his room with the lighting.
All right, well, you are suggesting for Anish now, with 2 minutes left on the clock, to move his queen 2 squares up.
I think so.
Attack the rook.
Mm.
He's got to try, right? Yeah.
I mean, the rook is defended, that's the problem. So you will just drop your bishop. The whole idea would be to swing white's queen across on the 7th rank, maybe give a check. I'm not sure what next. That is the issue for Giri. And Giri hates sacrificing unless he sees there's something specific.
Yeah, he's going for it. He has to do it.
Process of elimination.
Yeah, I mean, taking the bishop looks very risky, though, doesn't it? I mean,
Does.
I mean, you've got at least a draw, bishop check. No, you haven't, because the king goes in the corner, right? I see, yeah.
There's a few moves, right? I mean, I personally would take the bishop.
Oh, wow. OK, black's only winning move, but the only move to get an advantage is to drop the black queen back 2 squares. That's not obvious.
Oh.
Dropping the black queen back, actually taking the white bishop, which we were assuming is the key move, that, as Simon mentioned, leads to a draw, 0.0. Right. We don't see why it's a draw. It's still very complicated, but it could go either way. Dropping the black queen back 2 squares, mirroring the white queen, trying to force a queen trade, that is the key. Again, the key is you want to force the white queen to the a5 square. That seems to be the kind of cursed square in this match. And only once the white queen gets off the 7th rank, then you take white's bishop. Wow, that is...
Oh, he's found it. Wow.
Brilliant move.
Yeah.
Finding that is incredible. I mean, the last game, Anish turned it totally around from a completely lost position. This game, it's going the other way. Yeah. Duda's turning it around. Are we going to see him in a bit of ecstasy as well, maybe? I mean... He's played brilliantly to defend this, but I do actually... Well, I mean, I felt for Duda in the last game, but I'm really feeling for Anish. Yeah. You shouldn't be punished for trying to win a game of chess, really. Yeah. You know, it's just not fair. So...
But the goddess of chess may be still bitter about that first game of the day when Anish took a draw with white.
Ah, that's why. Maybe that's why, yeah. When he took the draw, that's it. He took the draw in the first game. There is some justice. Yeah.
But look at this. Black has 2 squares, 2 good squares to go to. One was a bad square, but he did find the best square, the safest for the black king.
Incredible. I mean,
There's actually a way to win a piece right now for white, but black's pawns would just win the game. So in the current position, white can actually be flashy, I think, and give up the white queen. You can even take on this square with a check. You give up your queen for a rook, but then you jump in with a knight fork. It looks like you're winning. The black king moves, takes a bishop, because at the end you save your own bishop and you win the black queen in the process. You emerge with an extra knight. But we've been talking about these black pawns, and I think one of them's going to win the game. You just push forward simply. And the white knight tries to ride back to the rescue. The other black pawn steps forward, and these are going to cost white at least a piece, maybe even more. They're just too strong. It's almost similar to a previous game we saw with Erigaisi and Aronian. It's just a pawn race. And queenside pawns, when they've got nothing stopping them, when your opponent's pieces are distracted, they can be such a good trump card. And, OK, the white queen is back on that cursed square on a5, if we go back to the current position. And the question is, do you take this bishop? Do you get brave?
Can't you trap the queen now?
Ooh, with a rook?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, unless there's some...
Where's the queen go?
You got knight... No, knight check. Just
knight
take
check
the bishop.
just drops the bishop. Wow, is this just simple now? Yeah, let's go back to the players. It looks like Simon's found the winning move. I don't see a reply.
I mean...
I don't see it. The queen is trapped.
So,
you're right, Simon.
Yeah, it's weird because you're looking at... If you can get the bishop to d6, if you can get the knight in a good check, then... but I can't see anything that's quite good enough here.
Do you think Giri spotted it suddenly?
Yeah, look,
he's barely breathing.
Yeah. Well, I think that's also not the only way to win. I was also looking at threatening checkmate, just to set the heart rate fluttering. But I love your move, Simon. That is just put it in the bank. Victory assured.
Seriously, guys, there's something about the white queen on the a5 square today that's just all gone wrong in the last game. Every time he's put it on that square, this is the second, third time he's done it this game. It's
gone bad.
Computers hated it, and now queen trap. Duda finds it. White's queen is doomed. No safe squares.
Duda's played so well in this game from the horrible position to he's done everything right. He's complicated it. He's mixed up, and it's not even really that clear where Anish went wrong. Actually, I mean, we were. Well, I was kind of playing most of Anish's move anyway, so it's like I'm not even sure what he did wrong, actually, which is, even though he was probably winning, you know.
The plan of maybe using the white queen and going off to the side of the board was maybe wrong.
Yeah, sure.
He could have still gone for a draw after that, but...
Yeah. Take the draw. Always take the draw. Doesn't matter if you're completely winning, just take the draw to be safe. Solid is the way to go.
In hindsight, that's definitely words of wisdom for Giri, but okay, he's got less than 10 seconds. He needs to find a move. There's just no way to keep your queen on the board.
No. Don't think there's a move.
Nothing.
2 seconds.
Okay, he gives a desperate knight check, but after the black king takes the white light-squared bishop, that's game over. Giri is about to resign.
What a change in emotions from the last game. I mean, painful to see. And look at the light. Now Duda's winning, the light comes on. He's like the enlightened one. Wow. Bang. Oh, hallelujah.
That is the sound inside young Christoph Duda's head right now. He wins game 3 to take the lead in the quarterfinal match against Anish Giri. And look at Anish, heartbreak, shaking his head.